What's up, everybody, and welcome back for another solo mining episode. I know it's been several days since we've done a episode of this, but a lot has changed, and a lot of just kind of reorganization for everything that I'm kind of doing right now in Eve. But I'll kind of go over a lot of those details in this episode. But we're out here with the Mackinaw, and this is actually the command tune. And normally, we'd be out here with the command tune plus the nomadic tune or the miner, but I actually ended up moving the nomad tune out to Null Sec probably about a week ago, and and I started the solo Null Sec series, which that series is a lot more all-encompassing than any of the other ones I've done, and that just gives me the freedom to explore a lot of different activities in more of a broader kind of a stroke when it comes to like day in the life. It's not going to take anything away from this series. This series is primarily very podcast, very conversational, with good old high sec mining as the backdrop. But a lot of my motivations and a lot of my goals for Eve right now went through a pretty decent amount of change in the past week or so. I know in this for this series, we were talking a lot about industry, manufacturing, preparing to kind of do all of that stuff, which isn't completely off the table. We get all these rocks kind of queued back up. But and I kind of expected this whenever I started like really looking into manufacturing, the state of manufacturing in terms of doing something worthwhile or sustainable or, I don't know, of value from just doing mining in high sec and the surrounding areas. But manufacturing is still really, really bad in terms of the margins, because it's very easy to look at like cost of materials and then value of item, and in most cases see some profit. But if you've ever actually like really looked into all of the fees and all of the little places where they hit you with this, it really starts to add up. I knew this was going to be the case whenever I started preparing to do industry. I do enjoy doing research and invention and all that stuff. But I believe that if you're going to be successful in industry, then it's better to still be in a engineering complex in nullsec. And also the availability, and when you rig those structures have bonuses. Not just your manufacturing, but your research can go faster and everything like that. So as far as like the goal as it was before, was to just kind of stockpile a bunch of ore here in high sec and then research some BPOs and start making stuff for profit, which isn't really going to be possible at the degree that I want to do things. So that kind of got me, that kind of like started the ball, or kind of like pushed that thought over the hill in terms of going back to nullsec with the nomadic tune. And the reason I took her is because she can fly Tengu, she can run all the crystals, she can run mining, and she has max scanning skills. So she's very good about doing everything that I like to do in nullsec, and she was really very much wasted being stuck in high sec. And a lot of the reason I'm pushing industry over, and it's going to be on that series, is because I want to give the best possible representation of manufacturing industry invention. That's something which you can't really do in high sec. So by her being out there, I'm able to do moon mining, invention, reaction, all that stuff that goes into it. PI is a lot better as well, which is essentially what she's been doing. She's been doing a lot of PI her first week out, which has been nice. I've actually really missed doing PI. This tune and its mining is still going to play a part, I think. It's going to really depend on how much need I have for this ore, what I'll probably end up having to do is, which isn't going to be necessarily a bad thing, but no, that's the wrong button. Get this rat taken care of. All the ore that we're mining on this tune for this series, I think it would be interesting to actually compress it all, send it to Jita, and then send it out to Null Sec to be used in industry. So moving forward, this series is still going to be primarily, exclusively about mining and just hanging out. It allows me a platform to just kind of talk about everything I'm kind of doing in Eve in a, like I said, a podcast sort of way. Whereas everything else that I do as far as content goes ends up being very structured and instructional. And some of like the stuff I'm going through and stuff might, you know, bleed over to the Null Sec series. My idea is that like the Null Sec series is really going to be for people who are interested in running in Null Sec solo and wanting to see kind of like what that day-to-day looks like. And solo mining will continue to be the series to kind of just watch and chill and hang out and everything. But other than that, that's probably one of the biggest reasons I took like kind of a break from producing more episodes for solo mining. That's why there was a kind of a gap, because I really wanted to kind of decide moving forward what every tune's kind of purpose was. And because I still actually enjoy just coming out here and kind of burning these rocks. It does though look like this might be a small rock day. These rocks are tiny. Let's do a little survey scan here and kind of look at all this. Yeah, look at these are tiny. Yeah, pretty bad, but that's fine. We don't have any pirate strongholds in the system, so we are good to go for a while. And I still have some mining tunes in Jita, so we still have the ability to come out here and boost some other Mackinaws and kind of continue going with things. But I'm going to essentially be juggling this series plus Null Sec, and then also working more with my alpha tune moving forward and things. But I think the timeline for really showing off industry manufacturing is going to be a little bit longer than anticipated, because some of the stuff that I enjoy doing for industry requires a little bit of setup. And what I like doing, what that really means is what I feel is worth doing, because you can go out and you can make pretty much anything you want, but then being able to sell it for a profit is an entirely different story. So my goal for actually showing industry manufacturing and all that stuff is only to show you what I would personally be doing. A lot of that tends to be, like I've said in the past, fuel block manufacturing or nanite repair paste. And I also like to just take blueprints out and invent them into Tech 2 blueprints for things like the Prospect or even like the Mackinaw. And like I do end up making quite a bit of this selling blueprint copies to people, and that ends up doing really, really well, and better than usually it is for me to actually go out and go through all the hassle of building a Tech 2 ship in most cases. The other thing that you can do as well, and probably a lot of people are going to get mad at me for talking about this, because every time I talk about something that's kind of niche or whatever, I get attacked for like blowing up a market or whatever. But there's what I've also done in the past is I'll go to Jita and buy all of the fuel block BPOs, which are generally about 10 to 12 to 15 million each. And then I'll actually research them completely, and then you can go and you can end up selling them on contract fully researched for like 20 to 25 million. So you can effectively just research some BPOs and double your risk by selling the fully researched stuff on contract. And I've done that for a while, not so much recently, just because of just everything else going on. But it is a good way if you have a lot of these skills for laboratory operations. You're able to do 10 or, you're able to do the maximum amount of research jobs, then you can buy up a bunch of BPOs that you can buy at one price and research and sell at a higher price, if not doubled. And it's kind of sad because the fact that you can actually just take a blueprint, research completely, and then sell it, and kind of repeat that process and make more ISK than actually just using that BPO to make the thing, is kind of sad. There's also some money in just copying, just buying certain BPOs and copying them and then selling the copies. A lot of that stuff tends to be more valuable long term. Uh, One thing that I've seen done a lot, and I've only done it a few times, is to take like the Orca BPO and think about all the cap parts that go into that BPO and buy all those BPOs and essentially make copies of everything. And then you basically take all those blueprint copies, you make like an Orca kit contract, and that stuff sells pretty well, or like a Rorqual kit. So these people buying these blueprint copy kits on contract are getting copies for all of the cap parts needed to go into that Rorqual build and the Rorqual itself. That takes a little bit more time to set up those batches, but turns out you actually make more money doing that stuff than actually making the things. But then also just making parts of parts of parts is usually more profitable than going all the way to, like, for instance, like instead of like going from nothing all the way to a Rorqual, you are almost better off just making parts of parts for stuff like that, which is probably what I'll start kind of showcasing when we start doing that industry stuff more in the future. More of the, like, in the, I don't know, the less interesting or mainstream ways of doing manufacturing or research or messing with BPOs. But I wish that it was a little bit better, better profit margins for a lot of stuff. But the economy is really bad, and whenever you take 30, let's say 30 million in materials, and you end up making not even a million in profit after all of the job costs and selling the thing and all the broker and sales tax, just making a million on that is just kind of exhausting and frustrating. Because I mean, I could just sit here and do a few rounds of product discovery and make what I would have done going through that whole process, which could have taken days, if not more. So I tend to look at a lot of things in kind of that lens. It's like, oh well, if I can just go out and do like one load of Merc and make 20 to 25 million in less than half an hour, or if I can just sit here in station and just do project discovery until I hit cap and make 20 million, that's better than just like going out and mining all this stuff to pour into these BPOs. That's going to end up just giving me a 1 to 2 million profit, if that. That's why I think a lot of people try to get into industry and they start like looking at the numbers, and then they start to think, well, instead of going through all of the all the worry of getting all the things and then paying the job costs and then waiting for the product and then taking that product to market and selling it or whatever, they just end up selling the materials because you just don't make enough for the effort and stuff like that, which is frustrating. There are some decent stuff that can be done, like nano repair paste is good, and fuel blocks are good. The fuel blocks doing fuel blocks in Null Sec are not worth bringing back to high sec in a jump breaker, because there's just the I don't know, ISK Prim 3 is just not there when you think about like fuel costs and things like that. But that's why a lot of what I end up doing in industry and manufacturing ends up being like kind of situational based. I kind of sell to the neighborhood for the most part, and I also just end up building a lot of fuel blocks for people who are doing reactions as well, because even just having all of the PI for the fuel block BPOs, if they supply me the isotopes so that I can make like oxygen or whatever the case may be in terms of fuel blocks that they need for reactions, I usually just charge them for the PI that is used for however how many runs that they need, and that allows me to just still do some manufacturing, and still offload a lot of planetary commodities. And in most cases, I just end up selling the PI directly to people in Null Sec. Uh, and I know a lot of people go all the way to like P4 or P3 and sell that kind of stuff. But I found a lot of success in literally just setting up like 3 characters to just do nothing but the 15 P1s, and just having a massive stockpile of every type of P1 and selling that, because from that people can take those and dump them into process plants themselves and turn them into whatever they want. I'll probably do a PI video in the future showing how to actually extract all 15 type of raw with just 5 planets, which is pretty interesting. A lot of upkeep on that, but if you are interested in only worrying about P1, then it's nice to be able to just take one character with 5 planets, get every piece of raw, and then just have basically one process planet. If you really didn't care about like efficiency or like getting the most amount of P1 in a short amount of time, if you're like, well, I just want to just like constantly make every type of P1 and just stockpile it, you could literally just extract all the raw from 5 different planets, and then that 6th planet on that tune, you can literally just do one, or you usually do like one advanced or one regular factory for every type of P1, and just dump all the raw in there and just slowly kind of outputs. And since it was only 15 P1, you can only do 22 P1 factories on like a barren planet, so it gives you a little bit more overhead. So like things like oxygen or some P1 that ends up selling a little bit better, like biomass or precious metals, ends up getting a couple more basic factories. But I digress. Excuse me. I really just wanted to kind of get out here in mind, get you guys kind of up to date with kind of where I'm at for Eve, and kind of like what I've been doing, and do a little bit of mining. I think it's definitely going to be, I think by having that tune in Null Sec now, it gives me a little bit more motivation to take all this stuff that we're mining in High Sec and get it out there to her where she can use it. Because normally I would just go out and rat and melt a bunch of loot and make ships that way and get my trit and all that stuff that way. But we can end up carrying out quite a large amount of compressed ore out there to her and do some fun stuff. And even if we don't really like make stuff for profit, we could just kind of play with different BPOs and make some stuff and just have some fun with it. But we're gonna try to fill this Mackinaw up and kind of do a little bit more mining. But definitely the amount of mining I'm doing in High Sec these days is, for the past week, has gone down quite a bit. There was a lot of logistics things going into getting that tune back out to Null Sec. If everybody wondering about like moving assets out to Null, where my tune is, there is a freight service in that area which I used, but I purposely use like a Tengu and a Buzzard and a Procurer and all those things. And if you go back and watch, if you search the channel for Null Sec Go Bag, that's kind of my go-to kind of I guess kit, you could say. It's basically like taking a crane and then like a bunch of ships that can break down and go into that ship, and you can fly it out to Null. And then when you get there, you just kind of like, it's like a pop-up kind of situation where you have the ability to have like a Tengu for ratting and a scan ship or a mining ship. You can fit a surprisingly good amount of stuff in a crane. So that's worth probably a watch if anybody's wondering about how to actually logistically get stuff out. In terms of like a lot of the other questions I've seen on the channel in regards to like Null Sec, is like, do I rent or have I rented? And I have rented. If you watch the Solo Omega series, my tune was sub-renting out there during that series, which we did quite a bit of income with that tune, my main, late last year. Right now, for the Null Sec series I'm doing now, I am not renting. I am just kind of bunking with friends, as it were. But just because you're in a corporation in Null Sec doesn't mean you can't be solo. It kind of depends on the situation, but everything I do in Null Sec, regardless of being like in a corporation, is still solo. All that stuff I do is I don't touch fleets unless they're my own, and that's kind of how I like it. I just don't really care for the drama, but there are occasions where I just kind of like to hang out with people I know in, you know, Discord or whatever, and kind of shoot the shit. But renting is not a bad option. But if you're in a corporation that has a good amount of members and you can pass all that NullSec Alliance's requirements for being an eligible renter, it is worth it. Systems can run a little bit expensive. You kind of have to like go in with it, knowing that you're gonna have to get out there and actually do a lot of activities in NullSec to kind of accommodate that rent. But it's the amount of the amount of ish you can make in NullSec makes the rent it's doable. It's like night and day compared to especially compared to like high sec and stuff. So hopefully that new series will be able to illustrate that quite a bit. But as far as this series, we're going to keep doing what we do. Yeah, I kind of wish this was not a small rock day, but we're doing all right. And I think, yeah, like I said, I think all the stuff that we're stockpiling here is just going to end up going out there to Null, and we'll use it out there. These episodes will tend to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 20 to 30 minutes in the future, just to facilitate all the other series that I'm making on a daily basis as well. But I hope you enjoyed watching, and we're just gonna, if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see in terms of like ships or mining setups, let me know. I take all this stuff into consideration before making episodes. I like to show as much variance as possible, but for the most part, I'm just kind of locking into a good amount of Mackinaw mining here to get as much stuff stockpiled as normal. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.